Doris Day, the happiest face in Hollywood, with a smile that always seemed radiant. But when she passed away in 2019, her grandson, Ryan Melcher, was not informed. He learned the news through social media, like a stranger. Why? Because for the final 14 years of her life, Doris Day had completely cut off contact with her grandson. And now, at the age of 41, Ryan has decided to break the silence, revealing dark secrets his grandmother kept hidden for decades. What makes this story resonate today is not old rumors, but a voice coming from the next generation. What Ryan reveals is not meant to shatter her image, but to expose a more painful truth. Sometimes the image loved by the entire world becomes the armor that forces a person to endure life in isolation. Doris Day's story, therefore, does not begin under stage lights, but in the emptiness behind the smile, the place she chose not to speak from until she could no longer speak for herself. Welcome back to the channel. Doris Day was born in 1922 in Cincinnati, Ohio, into an ordinary working-class family. Her childhood was far from easy. Her parents divorced when she was still young, leaving deep psychological scars. But she found joy in dance. From an early age, Doris dreamed of becoming a professional dancer. She practiced relentlessly, entered competitions, and possessed genuine talent. But at the age of 14, her dream was crushed, literally. Doris was involved in a horrific train accident. The car she was riding in was struck by a train, and her legs were seriously injured. Doctors feared she might never walk normally again, let alone dance. Doris was confined to bed for more than a year, her legs in casts, living with both physical and emotional pain. Yet sometimes, miracles emerge from tragedy. During those months in bed, Doris began listening to the radio and singing along. Her mother noticed there was something special about her daughter's voice. When Doris was finally able to walk again, she did not return to dancing. She had found a new path: music. At 15, Doris began singing at small venues around Cincinnati. Her voice, clear, warm, and full of feeling, quickly attracted attention. Bandleader Barney Rapp suggested she change her name from Doris Kappelhoff to Doris Day, taken from the song Day After Day, which she often sang. The new name sounded simple, memorable, and more American, perfect for a future star. In 1945, Doris recorded Sentimental Journey, and it became a phenomenon. The song was released at exactly the moment World War II ended, when millions of American soldiers were returning home. Sentimental Journey became their anthem, a song of longing, love, and hope. Doris Day, at just 23, became a national star. Hollywood took notice quickly. In 1948, Doris was cast in the lead role of Romance on the High Seas, despite having no acting experience at all. But her natural presence, radiant smile, and ability to sing live captivated audiences. The film was a major success, and Doris Day officially became a movie star. The 1950s were Doris Day's golden era. She starred in Calamity Jane and sang Secret Love, which won an Academy Award. She became a box office icon with a string of romantic comedies, especially Pillow Talk, 1959, alongside Rock Hudson. Doris Day was not just an actress, she was a cultural phenomenon, representing post-war America's optimism and joy. But Doris Day's romantic life was a painful paradox. The woman America viewed as a symbol of optimism and purity repeatedly entered marriages that gradually stripped her of control over her own life. Her first marriage to Al Jordan occurred when Doris was only 17, an age when immaturity is easily mistaken for love. Jordan initially appeared protective, but the relationship soon became a source of ongoing tension. Doris lived in an atmosphere of instability, where her husband's anger and controlling behavior kept her constantly on edge. Notably, throughout this period, Doris almost never sought public help. In 1940s Hollywood, a young actress admitting to marital instability could mean the end of her career. Her silence was not weakness, but survival. Her second marriage, to George Weidler, brought a more subtle kind of damage. There were no violent clashes, no surface-level drama, but a persistent sense of suppression. Weidler could not adapt to the reality that his wife was becoming increasingly famous and admired. Doris, meanwhile, had grown accustomed to shrinking herself to keep the peace. The marriage lasted only 8 months, leaving her with a bitter lesson. Even without violence, rivalry and insecurity can still destroy a relationship. Her third husband, Martin Melcher, appeared to be the complete opposite. He was calm, seemingly protective, and especially knowledgeable about how Hollywood operated. For Doris, Melcher was not only a husband but also a manager, a guide, someone who handled everything so she could focus on her art. This division of roles gradually created a dangerous dependency. Doris entrusted almost all financial and career decisions to Melcher, believing it was an expression of love and trust. For many years, she lived in a false sense of security, unaware that this control was quietly stripping her of her autonomy. Martin Melcher's death in 1968 was not only an emotional loss, but also the moment when the curtain concealing the truth was pulled back. When Doris Day began reviewing her financial records, she discovered a shocking reality. Most of the wealth she had earned from dozens of hit films, best-selling albums, and advertising contracts was nearly gone. Funds had been misinvested, spent without transparency, or tied up in agreements she had never been properly informed about. According to those close to her, the feeling was not merely panic, but the shattering of trust. Doris did not just lose money, she lost the sense of safety she had built over her entire life. What made the shock even more severe was discovering that she was bound to a long-term television contract for the Doris Day Show, one she had never personally agreed to. The contract had been signed while she allowed her husband full control over legal matters. Now, in the midst of grief, she was forced to continue working at a high intensity to pay off debts and protect her professional reputation. Doris entered the early 1970s in a state of exhaustion, both physically and mentally. She still appeared in front of the camera with her familiar smile, but behind it lay financial pressure, deep fatigue, and a profound sense of betrayal. Although she won the lawsuit and was awarded a large sum in damages, the amount she was actually able to recover was only enough to help her regain some stability and could not make up for what had been lost. More importantly, after this upheaval, Doris Day no longer saw the world the same way. She became cautious and withdrawn, choosing to step away from Hollywood far earlier than the public had expected. This was not an act of surrender, but a form of self-protection. After too many years living for an image, for audiences, and for people she trusted, Doris finally chose to prioritize peace, even if it meant giving up the spotlight she once commanded. After leaving Hollywood, Doris Day not only withdrew from the limelight, but also gradually closed off her personal world. A series of upheavals in her marriages and finances led her to develop a clear self-defensive reflex, keeping her distance. Over time, that wariness applied not only to the media, but also spread into family relationships. For Doris, silence became the only way to preserve the peace she had paid so dearly to obtain. The revelation by Ryan Melcher, her only grandson, shocked the public when he disclosed that he had been cut off from contact with his grandmother for 14 years. The most heartbreaking part was not the distance itself, but the fact that Ryan learned of Doris Day's death through social media, just like millions of strangers. For him, it was not only a shock, but also the feeling of being pushed out of a part of his own bloodline. The cause of this rift remains subject to differing interpretations. Ryan believes that after his father, Terry Melcher, passed away in 2004, Doris's longtime manager exercised strict control over her surrounding relationships, including limiting contact between Doris and her grandson. From this perspective, Doris Day gradually became enclosed within a closed circle, where all access had to go through intermediaries. Conversely, representatives for Doris Day have stated that she never intended to cut off her family, and that Ryan failed to respond to her efforts to reconnect. Notably, regardless of who was right or wrong, Doris Day never publicly addressed this conflict. She offered no explanation and did not refute any accusations. That silence could be interpreted as coldness, but it could also be the sign of someone who was simply too exhausted from having to constantly explain and defend herself before the public. For Doris, after a lifetime of being defined by the image of a happy woman, continuing to expose her private wounds was likely something she no longer had the strength to do. In the final years of her life, Doris Day lived a life very different from her Hollywood heyday. She lived quietly on her estate in Carmel, surrounded by dozens of dogs, cats, and other animals she had rescued. She rarely appeared in public, declined most interviews, and seemed to want to be forgotten. Yet her charitable work for animals continued. The Doris Day Animal Foundation rescued thousands of animals, advocated for stricter animal protection laws, and even helped initiate World Spay Day to control pet overpopulation. For Doris, animals were the only beings who never betrayed her, never took advantage of her for money. They loved her unconditionally, and she returned that love with a lifetime of devotion. On her 97th birthday, her final birthday, Doris sent a short message to her fans. She thanked them for loving her over many decades and urged them to continue caring for animals. "Be kind to all living creatures," she said. "That's the greatest gift you can give this world." When Doris passed away at the age of 97, there was no grand funeral. According to her wishes, her ashes were scattered at sea, with no gravestone and no memorial. She wanted to disappear quietly, just as she had lived in her final years. But her legacy endures, not only through her films and songs, but through the thousands of animals saved by her work. The story of Doris Day is not a Hollywood fairy tale. It is the story of a woman who fought her entire life against abuse, betrayal, loss, and ultimately loneliness. The woman who always smiled on screen had cried far too much in real life. Yet she also showed extraordinary resilience, the ability to keep living, to keep loving, even if it was animals, and to keep creating good in the world even when life was cruel to her. Ryan Melcher, despite the pain of being cut off from his grandmother for 14 years, said that he does not resent her. He is simply saddened by the moments lost, the conversations that never happened, and the goodbyes that were never said. Still, he is proud of the legacy she left behind, not only in entertainment, but in protecting voiceless creatures. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Don't forget to share this video so more people can learn the true story of Doris Day. What do you think about Doris Day isolating herself from her family in her later years? Did she have the right to protect herself from those who might hurt her? Or was it a tragic loneliness? And if you were Ryan, what would you have done? Share your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video, and remember, be kind to all people and all living beings, because we never know what battles they are fighting. Be kind, always.